Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, our mission is, I would say, one of the most unique challenges we've ever really faced here.
Oh, definitely.
We're trying to pull out some genuine, structured insights from a source that is, well, it's just pure, delightful chaos.
Right. We were given this transcript of a radio show next week, from November 30th, 2025, and it's a total whirlwind.
It really is.
You've got news summaries, personal therapy sessions, a random history quiz, and, a full-blown sports eulogy, all rolled into one.
It's a gold mine, but only if you have the right filter. And that's what we're here to be for you. We're your shortcut. We're going to cut through all the anecdotes about, the Red Roof Inn or the saga of a broken Christmas tree to get to the core takeaways.
So you feel like you're fully caught up, but also maybe learn a few surprising things along the way.
Exactly.
So we've broken this down into, I think, 4 main themes from the source. We'll start with this major emotional tragedy, which, frames the whole week.
Yeah, and then we'll move into a pretty stark retail reality check, some pop culture shocks, and then a necessary but impartial political analysis at the end.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay, so let's unpack this emotional core. The hosts open their show with a very deliberate and frankly kind of bizarre song choice.
Milli Vanilli's Girl, I'm Gonna Miss You.
Yeah, which on the surface makes no sense.
Right, but when you hear their explanation, it clicks. The song wasn't about romance at all. It was because of that central lyric.
The dream is over.
Exactly. It perfectly captured how they felt after the Kansas City Chiefs had this just crushing defeat. It wasn't just losing a game.
No, it was more than that. It was the loss of that feeling, they said, of inevitability and invincibility.
The whole belief system just crumbled.
And I love the irony here, using Milli Vanilli for this particular tragedy. Because the fans' belief in the team was shattered. And that's exactly what happened to Milli Vanilli's entire career.
Precisely. For anyone who might have missed this amazing piece of 90s pop culture history, they were huge. Absolutely massive.
And then it all imploded.
Completely. It came out, they were just lip-syncing. The actual singers, as the source pointed out with some classic radio snark, were not as handsome as the guys on stage.
So you've got this perfect analogy running through the whole show. It's about that overwhelming disappointment when reality just shatters an illusion you've bought into.
Whether it's a pop duo or a football team you think is destined for the Super Bowl.
Right. When that bubble bursts, it feels like a tragedy. The host literally said, "It's a tragedy for me to see the dream is over." That feeling of letdown just colors everything else.
And that feeling of, deflation, it spilled right into the host Chris's actual life. He traveled down to the Lake of the Ozarks.
For the Missouri Association of Counties Conference, a pretty serious policy event about local government.
But he signed up late, so he couldn't get into the main resort, Margaritaville.
So he ends up at the Red Roof Inn.
It's such a perfect little example of that post-defeat letdown. You go from this high-status idea to something, very mundane.
But this is where his personal trip gives us this huge structural insight.
It really does. So he's on a break, decides to take a walk at the local outlet mall just to get some exercise.
And what he describes is this massive, really tangible reality check on physical retail at the end of 2025.
He paints a picture of just desolation.
Hundreds of empty storefronts. He figured maybe only 8 shops were even still open.
Wow.
If you're looking for a clear visual indicator of how consumer behavior has shifted, that is it right there.
And what makes it so insightful is the commentary from the hosts, the idea that nothing's cheaper that much anymore.
Right.
The whole reason to go to an outlet mall, the deep discounts, that value proposition has just collapsed.
Because you can just shop online, get it shipped right to you. The perceived deal is often better than what's left in the store. Yeah. It just tells you everything about the shift to convenience and direct-to-consumer.
It really connects back to that theme of shattered illusions, doesn't it? The grand promise of the American outlet mall, this temple of bargains.
That dream is over, too. Okay, so we switch from that kind of bleak retail reality to the much more comforting topic of Thanksgiving.
Yes, a hard pivot into the feasting.
Which was November 28th, 2025. Chris's highlights were Grammy Sher's famous mac and cheese and a homemade pumpkin cheesecake.
Get this, that required 4 full blocks of cream cheese.
4 blocks. That is some serious caloric dedication.
It really is. Meanwhile, the other host, Madeline, took PTO for a long weekend and had 2 full Thanksgiving meals.
One was catered by Cracker Barrel while they watched the dog show.
That is such a classic American scene.
It is. And the second was at her parents' house.
And then we get this wonderfully relatable look into the, quirky domestic dramas of the
Oh,
holidays.
yeah.
Like the personal mission of Chris's wife, Jane, trying to fix their old pre-lit Christmas tree where all the lights are burnt out.
We've all been there. That is a Sisyphean task, if I've ever heard one.
Right. And then the mantle decorating.
Oh, this is my favorite part.
He describes his wife just silently staring at it for 20 minutes.
Right.
20.
Just contemplating whether a snowman or reindeer should go in one specific spot. It's not decorating. That's high-stakes, seasonal strategic planning.
It really speaks to the effort people put into creating that holiday feeling, even when they're kind of fatigued with everything else.
And speaking of effort, we can't forget Meline's attempt to help the chiefs.
Ah, yes. The cornbread cookies.
She brought them to the viewing party. It was a superstition that had apparently worked before.
But alas, not even the magic of cornbread cookies could stop the defeat.
Which is why we started with Milli Vanilli. A noble effort, but the dream was truly over.
A perfect transition. Since the real world was so disappointing, let's see what the pop culture world had to offer.
Okay, some genuinely massive celebrity news here. Cher. She is making a major, and I'd say very overdue, comeback to Saturday Night Live.
This is significant. She's the musical guest on December 20th, with Ariana Grande hosting.
And the time lapse is what's really incredible.
It's her first time as the musical guest in 38 years. Her last time was 1987.
38 years. That is a huge booking. It just speaks to her legacy. And of course, the host noted the connection. Ariana Grande is her co-star in the movie Wicked for Good.
And speaking of Grande and Wicked, there was a little bit of drama at a New York premiere.
Right.
Grande ended up fielding all the press questions for her co-star, Cynthia Erivo, because Erivo had totally lost her voice.
Which is a nice gesture, a show of support, but of course, in today's media world.
Nothing goes unscrutinized. The hosts joked that this one supportive moment immediately fueled all these rumors.
They called it a semi-demi non-binary relationship between them.
It just highlights how every single celebrity interaction gets instantly analyzed and blown up into a headline, no matter how trivial.
We also got a couple of interesting industry shifts. First, the Screen Actors Guild Awards, the SAG Awards, are rebranding.
That's right. They're going to be called the Actor Awards now, adopting the name of their statuette.
And the reasoning is all about global recognition, right?
Exactly. As the show gets bigger internationally, especially with the Netflix deal, they just want a name that clicks instantly for a worldwide audience.
Makes sense. And then for our most, I think, genuinely surprising celebrity news item.
Jesse Eisenberg.
Yeah, from The Social Network. He's planning to donate a kidney in mid-December.
And what's so fascinating is that it's an altruistic donation.
Meaning he's not giving it to someone he knows.
Right, to a complete stranger in need. It underscores this quiet, deep commitment to humanitarian causes that you don't always hear about. It's a huge, generous act.
Absolutely. A very sincere moment in a segment that was mostly about rumors and comebacks.
Sure.
Okay, let's shift to the more difficult content now.
The part that was clearly contributing to the host's fatigue.
Political analysis, critical thinking, and a little dose of history.
The radio hosts were just so exasperated with the political cycle, you could really hear it.
Oh, yeah.
Especially the reliance on these immediate, often misleading talking points. The big example was the controversy around the shooting of 2 National Guard officers.
We saw that immediate political spin. Trump instantly blamed Biden for it.
But the key fact, the context that came out later, was that the shooter had actually been granted asylum way back in April.
During the Trump administration.
Right. And this brings up that bigger question about how political discourse works. It's all about speed and deflection, not facts.
The hosts were so critical of the media for biting at the bee, as they put it.
For chasing that first inflammatory statement without waiting for the details that completely flipped the story.
They also spent some time critiquing Trump's rhetoric about how he would reverse all the executive orders that Joe Biden did by auto-pin. They called it lazy and ineffective.
Yeah, and their critique wasn't really about the policy. It was about the lack of substance and how it was being sold. They pointed out that there's no constitutional rule for how an executive order gets signed. So the auto-pen line was just this, procedural distraction.
Designed to make people angry, not to offer any real policy debate.
Exactly. That sense of constant low-substance political noise was a huge part of their fatigue.
Okay, let's give our brains a quick break with a historical palate cleanser. Because despite all that exasperation, the hosts did take this impromptu history quiz, and honestly, they did pretty well.
They really did. They did stumble on one, though. The detention camp linked to Executive Order 9066.
In California's Owens Valley. And for anyone listening, that executive order was the one that authorized the internment of Japanese Americans during World War II.
A really crucial piece of history.
But they nailed the others. The two Republican factions in the 1870s and 80s.
The stalwarts, led by Roscoe Conkling, and the half-breeds, led by James Blaine.
Which just goes to show, that deep fractures inside political parties are nothing new.
Not at all. The First and Second Continental Congress met in Philadelphia. The longest-serving Secretary of State was Cordell Hull, 11 years.
And the first indigenous president of Mexico was Benito Juarez. So, despite the chaos, there was some real learning going on.
Definitely. And to wrap up the news segment, they had this local prediction about the World Cup draw on December 5th.
Kansas City is a host city, and the excitement was definitely tempered with a lot of skepticism.
A general feeling of resignation, really, that they wouldn't get the big, high-profile teams. The local fear, expressed with a lot of humor, was that they'd end up with North Korea and Burkidistan.
It's that final little local version of the dream is over feeling, even before the dream really starts.
So we've really covered the gamut here. From the emotional sting of a sports loss to the collapse of retail, celebrity awards, political spin, and surprising altruism.
All from one chaotic radio show.
And what really stood out to me, especially later in the source, were these personal details that showed just incredible resilience.
Oh, yeah.
We learned Madeline completely changed careers after being laid off during COVID. She went from hospitality to tech and healthcare marketing. That's a massive pivot.
It's huge. That shows amazing professional resilience, plus her commitment to her health.
Yeah.
She's done 350 stationary cycling classes.
I know. That level of dedication, especially during stressful times, is just phenomenal.
It really is.
And the source material ends on this reflection that December is starting out as a sad song because of the Chiefs' loss and all the political fatigue. So given that emotional landscape, here's a final thought for you to consider. When you look at someone like Madeline logging 350 classes or bouncing back from a job loss, we see incredible personal strength. But how often do we mistake that sheer resilience, just the ability to push through, for actual hope? And when does that mistaken identity become, well, necessary just to get through a difficult season?